Today, founding innovators. Welcome back to Marvel America, where history meets heroism and where we challenge ourselves to embody the traits of real life and fictional figures who inspire us to be better. Each week, we're exploring a real life event or historical figure that shaped America, and we're going to draw parallels with Marvel superheroes, discovering lessons that we can live by. Today, we're diving into the world of groundbreaking innovators. Benjamin Franklin and Marvel's Tony Stark, otherwise known as Iron Man. Let's rewind to the 18th century, a time when America was still a fledgling nation, full of promise and hope, but in need of great visionaries. Enter Benjamin Franklin, founding father, inventor, scientist, and statesman who helps shape America through his endless curiosity and ingenuity. Let's get into Benjamin Franklin's origin story. Born in 1706 in Boston, Massachusetts, he was, get this, the 15th of 17 children. Yes, they procreated quite a bit more than we do today. Why is that? Well, first off, think back. There's a high child mortality rate. This was due to disease, poor medical care, and harsh living conditions. Having more children increased the chances of some surviving and supporting the family. There's the economic necessity. Children were viewed as valuable contributors to the household economy. In agricultural and trade-based families, having more children meant more hands to help with the work. And of course, there was lack of birth control. Then there's religion. Religious teachings back then preached many children was considered a blessing. This will be an inspiration to many. Despite his limited formal education, he was curious. He read voraciously. And he was a self-taught scholar who apprenticed under his brother as a printer. Franklin had an inventive spirit that gave the rise of creations like the lightning rod, bifocal glasses, and the Franklin stove. His curiosity about electricity led to his famous kite experiment, proving that lightning was a form of electrical energy, and we had to harness it. What's more, Franklin lived to serve. He had a passion for civic improvement. He actually established the first public library, the first volunteer fire department, and even the University of Pennsylvania. And to give you a sense about what kind of a guy Benjamin Franklin was, his inventions were never patented. He believed in sharing knowledge for the benefit of all of society. Many consider Benjamin Franklin a diplomatic genius. Once he became a statesman, Franklin played a key role in securing French support, which saved our butts during the American Revolution. And he was actually one of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. Many say he had wit, charm, and intelligence that made him a master diplomat. If you look back on Franklin's contributions, you'll find that his approach to life was one of relentless self-improvement and community service. He lived by a set of 13 virtues, which I'm going to share with you. He was always striving to be a better person. If you're aiming for self-improvement and moral perfection, try these 13 virtues. Temperance. Eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. Silence. Speak only what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Order. Let all your things have their place. Let each part of your business have its time. Resolution. Resolve to perform what you ought. Perform without fail what you resolve. Frugality. Make no expense but to do good to others or yourself. Waste nothing. Industry. Lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. Sincerity. No hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly. And if you speak, speak accordingly. Justice. Wrong none by doing injuries or omitting the benefits that are your duty. Moderation. Avoid extremes. Forbear resenting injuries so much as you think they deserve. Cleanliness. Tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. Tranquility. Be not disturbed at trifles or at accidents common or unavoidable. Chastity. Rarely use venery but for health or offspring, never to dullness, weakness, or the injury of your own or another's peace or reputation. humility. Imitate Jesus and Socrates. Franklin kept a journal to track his adherence to these virtues, focusing on one virtue each week to master them over time. I think these are great. I'll put all 13 in the show notes, that way you have something you can refer to. When I think about Benjamin Franklin's life, it reminds me that innovation isn't just about creating new things. It's about using our skills to improve life for everyone. As I work on my film projects, write screenplays, and perform stand-up comedy, all things I'm very passionate about, over the years, I've had to become very strategic in ways to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time to afford me the energy and the time to put towards my passions. I'm banking on the investment I've put in my creative endeavors and the side gigs over the years to help me build that sustainable community I've been talking about, to build a homestead. And I want it to become a reality rather than a pipe dream. But as I pursue that, I got to make sure that I devote 100% of my time into each of these projects. I'll give you an example. One of my many jobs over the years has been that of a tour guide. Now, I can see this job as a burden, something I simply do to pay the bills. But when I look at someone like Benjamin Franklin and see what an innovator he was, the constant curiosity he woke up with each day, I do the same. I wake up with a sense of wonder. I tell myself every day I'm going to use my wit, my charm, my intelligence to continuously learn about Los Angeles and share that knowledge with all my tour guests as I drive them throughout the city. And my aim is to give my passengers the best tour of their lives every time. Like Franklin, I believe that sharing knowledge is a responsibility meant to benefit society. And guess what? The knowledge that I impart on my tours, I don't place a patent on that knowledge. I'll spread it to anyone and everyone who will listen. One of Franklin's 13 virtues that I strive to practice every tour is sincerity. Use no hurtful deceit, think innocently and justly, and if you speak, speak accordingly. No matter the demeanor, cultural background, or manners of my passengers, I make sure to give them honest, respectful information. Being fully present and giving my all on the tours shapes how I approach my creative endeavors and my dream of a homestead lifestyle. I'm trying to channel Franklin's spirit of ingenuity as I pursue my creative endeavors and as I push towards making that sustainable lifestyle a reality. Whether it's experimenting with creative and original ways to tell stories in my films, in my stand-up, in my writing, or to be creative as I take baby steps towards my homestead, composting in my small LA apartment, or developing science-based fitness routines to inspire others to keep moving. I'm motivated to make a meaningful impact. All right, now let's flash forward and talk about the genius billionaire superhero, Tony Stark, Iron Man, one of Marvel's most complex heroes. Tony Stark, as many of us know, starts out as a wealthy, self-absorbed genius who cares more about fame and fortune than responsibility. But a life-changing event forces Tony to reevaluate his purpose and use his brilliance for the greater good. Let's get into Tony's origin story. He was a child prodigy and billionaire heir. Tony Stark was born with a genius-level intellect, and his father, Howard Stark, was a renowned inventor and founder of Stark Industries. Tony was a tech prodigy who earned advanced degrees by the age of 17, but his early life was marked by arrogance and recklessness. A turning point in his life when he was captured by terrorists using weapons his company manufactured. Tony built the first Iron Man suit to escape, realizing the grave consequences of his technology. This marked the start of his journey from self-indulgence to self-sacrifice. Tony's Iron Man suit, powered by the arc reactor, showcases his mastery of technology. It represents his evolution from a weapons manufacturer to a protector of humanity, using his inventions now to defend the innocent. Stark embraces his role as a hero. We all remember that classic line he delivered at the end of the first Iron Man film, "I am Iron Man." He funds initiatives like Clean Energy Project and, of course, the Avengers. His journey was a struggle between his ego and his genuine desire to use his gifts for good, constantly battling his own flaws to become a better guy. Tony's journey is that of redemption. His story is about growth and the responsibility that comes with power. His journey from selfishness to heroism shows that even flawed individuals can rise to become agents of change. Like Franklin, he was an innovator, but his greatest invention was himself, transforming into someone the world could count on. I often thought of how easy it is to get caught up in my own ambitions, just like Tony Stark. Unlike Tony, though, I was not born with a genius level intellect, unless, of course, my intellect is being compared to that of a chimpanzee. For me, staying humble and grounded is a daily practice. Out of college, my goal was to become a famous actor. I was determined to make that goal into a reality. Like Harriet Tubman, who we talked about last episode, I was determined and a bit stubborn like she was. Nothing was going to get in my way. However, like Tony Stark, I became self-absorbed, and I was preoccupied with seeking attention and fame, often neglecting responsibility. I got into debt, taking acting classes, skipping work for auditions, spending money on headshots, and not keeping my word when it came to commitments I'd made with family and friends. Like Tony, I was becoming consumed by arrogance and recklessness. That is, of course, until a life-changing event forced me to reevaluate my purpose and to use my gifts for the greater good. Although it didn't take me being captured by terrorists and building a suit of armor for me to realize that a life of self-indulgence was not sustainable. It's been quite an experience as I wake up each morning now before my alarm clock, and I'm excited and curious because I'm using my gifts to serve others rather than myself alone. Adopting this new way of approaching life has been a spark plug for me, and I'm going to share it with you. So go out there, create rather than chronically consume, live healthy, be active, and fuel your body with real whole foods. And that'll help you on your way to achieving all you want to achieve and becoming the best version of yourself. These two inspirational figures, of course, like any other human being, have flaws and imperfections, but they learn from their mistakes. Let's take Benjamin Franklin. He struggled with discipline. Despite all his accomplishments, he admitted to struggling with his own 13 virtues, especially temperance and order. He knew he wasn't perfect, but believed in the constant pursuit of self-betterment, reminding us that it's okay to stumble as long as we keep striving to improve. Franklin's honesty about his flaws are refreshing to me. It's easy to beat ourselves up over setbacks, but his example reminds me to keep pushing forward. For years, I was plagued by perfectionism. I am far from perfect, like anybody else. Yet, the bar I constantly set for myself was nothing less than perfect. This has led to a lot of unfinished screenplays, unspoken lines of dialogue, unrealized athletic potential in baseball and soccer, and worst of all, broken relationships. But like Ben, I've developed a belief in the constant pursuit of self-betterment rather than perfection. This guides me forward. Yes, it is okay if I stumble, but I gotta keep striving to improve. Tony Stark, as you know, battled with his ego. His ego often got in the way, leading to conflicts with friends and allies. His tendency to think he knew best caused rifts, but he learned to listen and trust in others, especially his fellow Avengers. His story is a testament to the idea that even when we fall short, we can grow and we can change. I've come to realize that perhaps I could actually use a healthier dose of ego. In the past, I've held positions as a teacher. When it comes to confidence and belief when teaching, I've had to learn to have faith in what I have to share. Too often, I've fallen victim to the imposter syndrome. I've questioned, what right do I have to be a teacher when there's so many others out there far more qualified? For instance, when I look back at a position I had as a substitute teacher before I actually earned my teaching credential, one school approached me and asked if I can take over the 10th grade world history class for a semester, as the other teacher was on leave for mental health issues. I was, of course, honored to be asked, but I didn't feel worthy, as I didn't have a degree in world history, nor had I any experience. Heck, I didn't even do well in world history in high school. If you would have asked me at the time what came first, Vietnam or World War II, I wouldn't even know. But I called on my ego to convince myself that I could do it. So, I accept the position. And man, I worked like heck to research each unit as I prepped to teach it, always managing to stay one step ahead of the students. And when I did not know something, I was forthright in letting them know I didn't know the answer, but I'd find out for them. I realized I didn't have to be the best teacher in the world. I just had to know a little more than the students I was teaching to empower them. I learned that a healthy ego helped me to believe in my abilities, which was crucial for taking on this new challenge and leading these students. Yes, they challenged me every step of the way, but I kept giving it my all, and I embraced my position as a role model. I remembered that they look at all the things you do and you say. By the end of the semester, something truly remarkable happened. It was quite obvious that I had earned the respect of the great majority of these students. And two of my most challenging students, who I was convinced hated me, actually dressed like I did on the last day of school to show their respect. Imitation, as they say, is the best form of flattery. These two guys proved it, Dane and Robert. A shout out to both of you. Taking that newfound confidence has helped propel me to keep striving to achieve my goals and inspire others. Both Benjamin Franklin and Tony Stark show us the importance of using our gifts for the greater good. They were both visionaries who had to learn to balance their incredible talents with a sense of duty to others. Their stories teach us that real change requires not just innovation, but also humility and a willingness to grow. I've made a list, ways to embrace innovation and responsibility. See what you think. See what you can apply in your own life. First, pursue lifelong learning. Take courses, read books, or engage in new hobbies to keep your mind active and adaptable. Invent for good. Whether it's a small household hack or a community project, use your creativity to make a positive impact. Give back. Use your skills to mentor others or volunteer for causes you care about. Well, you may say, I don't have any skills. You find them. Everyone has skills. You just got to wake up curious and constantly search for them. Collaborate. Embrace teamwork and be open to new perspectives. The best ideas often come from collaboration. Stay humble. Recognize that no matter how much you know, there's always room to learn from others. There you go. I hope these help, and I hope you can apply at least one of them in your life. Now let's burst the American bubble. Talk about global events of Franklin's era first. Of course, the defining event in Franklin's life was the American Revolution. So while Franklin is home fighting for independence from British rule, there's a lot going on around the world. There's the French Enlightenment. Franklin had a part in this. His time in France exposed him to the Enlightenment ideas, influencing both his diplomatic strategies and personal philosophy. During this time, we had the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. Of course, Franklin's inventions contributed to the age of innovation. So let's talk about that French Enlightenment. This is a period in the 1700s characterized by a surge in intellectual and philosophical thought, emphasizing reason, science, and the rights of individuals. During his time in France, Ben Franklin interacted with leading Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire and Rousseau, which influenced his approach to diplomacy, emphasizing rationality and human progress. These ideas also shaped his views on democracy and personal freedom, aligning with the revolutionary ideals of the American and French revolutions. And what exactly is going on during the Industrial Revolution? This marks the shift from agrarian economies to industrial societies. This era saw the introduction of the mechanized production, advances in textile manufacturing, and innovations in energy use, like steam power. Ben Franklin's inventions and experiments like the lightning rod and the improvements in the printing press contributed to the wave of innovation, highlighting the spirit of scientific advancement that defined the age. What about pop culture during Franklin's time? He actually had an influence in pop culture. He wrote Poor Richard's Almanac, which was a publication widely popular for its witty sayings and practical advice. Public lectures and debates were common, and Franklin often participated, sharing his ideas with a curious public. Have you ever heard of this name? Freemason? This was a significant part of social culture, and Franklin was an active Mason, using the network for personal and civic projects. So if you're unfamiliar with it, Freemasonry is one of the world's oldest and largest fraternal organizations. It's got its roots tracing back to the stonemason guilds of the Middle Ages in Europe. By the 1700s, Freemasonry had evolved into a society that brought together men from various walks of life. They were dedicated to moral and ethical self-improvement, charitable work, and philosophical study. Members, known as the Masons, practiced rituals and used symbols, like the compass and square, to convey lessons about virtue, wisdom, and brotherhood. In the 1700s, Freemasonry plays a significant role in social and political circles, and it actually provided a powerful network for members to exchange ideas and collaborate on civic projects. Ben Franklin, as an active Mason, leveraged this network to support both his personal endeavors and the revolutionary causes he was passionate about. Look into the Freemasons. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of information on YouTube about it, and it's rather mysterious. And now, let's get into trivia. How much do you know about Benjamin Franklin and Tony Stark? You ready? First, I'll go through all the questions, give you time to ponder, think about them, and then we'll go back. I'll reread all the questions with the answers. See how many you can get. Here's your first one. What year was Benjamin Franklin born? What does Tony Stark use to power the Iron Man suit? True or false? Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod. What phrase does Tony Stark famously say at the end of the first Iron Man film? You better know this one. What famous document did Franklin sign in 1776? What is Tony Stark's company called? What is Franklin's famous experiment involving electricity? Here's another curveball. What musical instrument did Benjamin Franklin invent? In the Civil War storyline, which major superhero does Tony Stark clash with over the Superhuman Registration Act? Which character assumes the role of Iron Man during Tony Stark's coma in the Invincible Iron Man series? Alright, let's see how many you got. What year was Benjamin Franklin born? 1706. What does Tony Stark use to power the Iron Man suit? That was the arc reactor. True or false? Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod. That's true. So what the heck is a lightning rod? It's a metal rod or conductor mounted on the top of a building or structure. Its purpose is to protect the structure from lightning strikes. When the lightning actually hits the rod, the electrical energy is safely directed down a conductive path into the ground, thus preventing damage to the building or causing fires. This invention was a crucial development in safeguarding structures from lightning damage and still is widely used today. What phrase does Tony Stark famously say in Iron Man? I said it earlier. I am Iron Man. What famous document did Franklin sign in 1776? You better have gotten the Declaration of Independence. What is Tony Stark's company called? Stark Industries. What is Franklin's famous experiment involving electricity? The kite experiment. What musical instrument did Benjamin Franklin invent? The glass harmonica. Look it up. In the Civil War storyline, which major superhero does Tony Stark clash with over the Superhuman Registration Act? Of course, Captain America. Which character assumes the role of Iron Man during Tony Stark's coma in the Invincible Iron Man series? Riri Williams, also known as Ironheart. Time for Match That Quote. You're going to tell me who delivered the quote. Is it Benjamin Franklin or is it Iron Man? Here's the first one. Sometimes you gotta run before you can walk. And this next one is one of my favorite quotes of all time, and boy does it hold true. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Okay, who delivered this first one? Sometimes you gotta run before you can walk. That was Tony Stark reflecting on his innovative and ambitious mindset. And it was Benjamin Franklin who delivered that iconic line, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. It's truly been a pleasure to talk about these two great men with you. Now I'm going to challenge you with two Socratic questions. Here's your first. At the Constitutional Convention, Franklin, an abolitionist, had to support compromises on slavery to ensure the Constitution's ratification. This meant delaying action on an issue he cared deeply about for the sake of unity. If you are Franklin, would you have compromised on slavery to secure the Constitution, or fought harder to abolish slavery, even if it risked derailing the entire process? How would you balance moral convictions with political pragmatism? And once you're finished wrestling with that scenario, here's the second. In Endgame, Tony had to decide whether to use the Infinity Gauntlet to stop Thanos, knowing it would cost him his own life, but save the universe. If you're Tony Stark, would you have used the gauntlet, sacrificing yourself, or tried to find another solution that might have taken more time or risked failure? How would you weigh the cost of your life against the lives of others? Have fun with those. It's time for you to go out there and innovate. Do it in the service of society. And I'll see you next episode when we master chaos with Alexander Hamilton and Doctor Strange. I love you.